99% of you are not subscribed to the channel. At 1,000 subscribers, I will post a series of special stories. Subscribe now. The small human colony on Arcadia 7 was nestled in a peaceful valley, surrounded by dense forests and rolling hills. It had been decades since the first settlers arrived, and in that time, they had carved out a comfortable existence, far from the bustling core worlds. The days were long and filled with the simple routines of farming, maintenance, and the occasional celebration under the bright stars that illuminated the night sky. Arcadia 7 was a haven for those seeking a quiet life, and its inhabitants had come to cherish the planet's tranquility. But one evening, that tranquility was shattered. It started as a distant rumble, low and deep, that reverberated through the ground. The colonists paused in their evening activities, glancing up at the sky with unease. The rumble grew louder, and soon the air was filled with a deafening roar as a massive object tore through the atmosphere, leaving a fiery trail in its wake. The colonists watched in horror as the object streaked across the sky, its descent controlled yet menacing, before it disappeared behind the treetops of the northern forest. A moment later, a tremendous crash echoed through the valley, followed by a shockwave that rattled windows and sent birds scattering into the sky. The colonists exchanged fearful glances. Nothing like this had ever happened on Arcadia 7. The planet was far from any known trade routes or military zones, making the appearance of such a large object all the more unsettling. As the initial shock subsided, the colony's leaders quickly convened in the central hall, a sturdy structure that had served as the heart of their community since the first settlers landed. Captain Raina Marsh, the colony's head of security, addressed the gathered crowd with a stern expression. "We don't know what it is or why it's here," Raina began, her voice steady but laced with tension. "But whatever just crashed in the northern forest is massive. We need to approach this with caution." The room buzzed with nervous energy as the colonists whispered among themselves. Theories ranged from a rogue asteroid to a malfunctioning starship, but none could explain the ominous feeling that had settled over the valley like a thick fog. Raina quickly organized a small scout party, selecting a few of the colony's most capable members. Among them was Ethan Blackwood, a seasoned explorer who had charted much of the surrounding wilderness, and Dr. Lillian Carter, the colony's lead scientist, whose knowledge of alien flora and fauna was unparalleled. The scouts armed themselves with what little weaponry the colony had, a few pulse rifles and shock batons, knowing that if the situation turned dire, they were woefully unprepared for any real conflict. As the group set out toward the forest, the rest of the colony gathered at the edge of the settlement, watching them disappear into the tree line. The air was thick with anticipation, and the usual sounds of the evening, children playing, adults chatting, were replaced by a tense silence. The forest was dense, with towering trees that blocked out much of the fading light. The path the scouts followed was one they had traversed many times before, but tonight it felt different, as if the very woods were holding their breath. The smell of scorched earth grew stronger as they neared the crash site, and soon they saw the first signs of destruction. Trees uprooted, their trunks shattered, and the ground scarred by deep grooves. Finally, they reached the clearing where the object had come to rest. The sight before them was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. In the center of the clearing stood a massive creature, unlike anything they had ever seen. It was shaped like a horse, but its body was covered in dark reflective scales that glimmered in the dim light. Its mane was a writhing mass of energy, crackling with electricity, and its eyes glowed a deep, unsettling red. The creature's legs were powerful, ending in sharp, metallic hooves that dug into the earth with every step. The alien hellbeast horse, as it would later be called, surveyed its surroundings with a mixture of caution and disdain. The air around it seemed to hum with energy, and the ground beneath its hooves smoldered, leaving a trail of smoke in its wake. Ethan took a step forward, his pulse rifle raised, but Raina quickly held out a hand to stop him. "Wait," she whispered, her eyes fixed on the creature. "Let's not provoke it." The group stood frozen, watching as the creature lowered its head to the ground, sniffing the air. It let out a low growl that reverberated through the clearing, sending a shiver down their spines. The creature was clearly intelligent, and the way it moved suggested that it was not just a wild animal, but something far more dangerous. Dr. Carter, ever the scientist, couldn't resist the urge to analyze the creature. This is extraordinary," she murmured, her voice filled with both fear and wonder. "It looks like some sort of bioengineered organism, but where did it come from?" Raina didn't answer. Her focus was on the creature, calculating their chances of survival if it decided to attack. The beast's eyes swept over the group, and for a moment they locked onto Raina's. She felt a wave of emotion, a mix of anger, fear, and something else she couldn't quite place, radiate from the creature. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature turned and began to move away, its massive form disappearing into the shadows of the forest. The scouts let out a collective breath they hadn't realized they were holding. "We need to get back to the colony," Raina said, her voice shaky but resolute. "We need to warn everyone." The group quickly retraced their steps, the oppressive atmosphere of the forest pressing in on them. By the time they returned to the settlement, night had fully fallen, and the colonists were waiting anxiously for news. Raina gathered everyone in the central hall and described what they had seen. The reaction was immediate. Gasps of disbelief, murmurs of fear, and a growing sense of panic. The elders, who had always been the voices of reason and calm, struggled to maintain order as the reality of the situation sank in. "We don't know what it wants," Raina said, trying to keep her voice steady, "but it's clear that it's not just an animal. It's intelligent and it's dangerous." Elder Thomason, the oldest and most respected member of the colony, spoke up. "We must not act rashly. If this creature is as powerful as you say, then provoking it could spell disaster for all of us. We should wait, observe, and only act if absolutely necessary." The room fell silent as the colonists absorbed his words. No one wanted to admit it, but they were all afraid of the creature, afraid of what it might do, and afraid of the unknown that had suddenly intruded upon their peaceful lives. In the end, it was decided that no one would approach the creature again. The colony would keep a close watch on the forest, and plans were made to fortify the settlement as best they could. But deep down, everyone knew that their simple defenses would be no match for the alien hell beast horse if it chose to attack. As the meeting dispersed and the colonists returned to their homes, the weight of the situation hung heavy in the air. Parents tucked their children into bed with reassuring words, but the fear lingered in their eyes. The peaceful life they had known on Arcadia 7 was gone, replaced by uncertainty and dread. And in the heart of the forest, the alien hellbeast horse roamed the shadows, its glowing eyes watching, waiting, and searching for something only it knew. While the adults of Arcadia 7 remained tense and fearful, unable to shake the anxiety brought on by the arrival of the alien hellbeast horse, there was one person who viewed the situation with a very different perspective. A small, curious girl named Lena. Lena was 7 years old, with a head full of wild, curly hair and wide, inquisitive eyes that sparkled with a constant sense of wonder. She was the kind of child who asked endless questions and never tired of exploring every nook and cranny of the colony. She was well known for her adventurous spirit, often seen wandering the fields or sitting by the edge of the forest, sketching the strange and beautiful creatures that called Arcadia 7 home. When Lena first heard the grown-ups talking about the alien hellbeast horse, she was captivated. The tales they told, of a monstrous creature with glowing red eyes and a body like a horse but far more terrifying, only fueled her imagination. While the adults whispered in fear, Lena's mind was filled with images of a majestic, powerful being, and she found herself itching to see it for herself. Despite the strict warnings from her parents and the elders, Lena couldn't resist the pull of the mysterious creature. The more they told her to stay away, the more determined she became. After all, Lena had always believed that there was more to the world than what people saw on the surface. She had a way of seeing the good in things, even when others couldn't. So, one early morning, before the sun had fully risen, Lena made up her mind. She quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her parents, and dressed quickly, She grabbed her small backpack, stuffing it with a few essentials, her sketchbook, a piece of bread, and a flask of water, before tiptoeing out of the house. The colony was still and silent as Lena made her way toward the forest. The air was cool and crisp, the sky just beginning to lighten with the first hints of dawn. Lena's heart raced with excitement and a touch of nervousness. She knew what she was doing was forbidden, but she also felt a strange confidence that she couldn't quite explain. Something deep inside told her that this was the right thing to do. As she entered the forest, Lena felt a familiar sense of calm wash over her. She had always loved the woods, with its towering trees and the symphony of sounds that surrounded her. Birds chirping, leaves rustling, and the distant calls of animals. But today, there was an underlying tension in the air, a reminder of the presence of the creature that had everyone so on edge. Lena walked carefully, her small feet barely making a sound on the forest floor. She followed the path the scouts had taken days earlier, her eyes wide as she took in the signs of the creature's passage, the scorched earth, the broken trees, and the faint smell of something metallic in the air. After what felt like an eternity, Lena finally reached the clearing where the creature had first been seen. Her breath caught in her throat as she caught sight of the alien hellbeast horse. It was even more magnificent than she had imagined. The creature stood in the center of the clearing, its massive form dwarfing the surrounding trees. Its body was covered in sleek, dark scales that shimmered faintly in the early morning light. Its mane, a wild, crackling mass of energy, shifted and flowed as if it were alive, sending occasional sparks into the air. But it was the creature's eyes that captivated Lena the most. Glowing red, yes, but not with the malice or anger she had heard about. Instead, they held a deep, ancient sadness, as if the creature were burdened by a sorrow too great for words. For a moment, Lena hesitated, fear creeping into her heart. The creature was enormous, and it could easily crush her with a single step. But then, as if sensing her presence, the alien hellbeast horse turned its head and looked directly at her. Lena's fear melted away as she met the creature's gaze. There was something in those eyes, something that told her she wasn't in danger. The connection was instant and profound. Lena felt an inexplicable urge to approach, to show the creature that she meant no harm. Slowly, she stepped forward, her hand outstretched. The creature watched her intently, its muscles tense but not hostile. It seemed as curious about her as she was about it. "You're not so scary," Lena whispered, her voice barely audible in the quiet clearing. She took another step closer, her heart pounding in her chest. The creature snorted softly, a puff of warm air escaping its nostrils. To Lena, it almost sounded like a sigh, a sound of relief, or perhaps acceptance. Encouraged, she took another step, and then another, until she was standing just a few feet away from the beast. For a long moment, the two simply stood there, studying each other. Lena could feel the creature's breath on her face, warm and steady. She smiled, her earlier fear completely forgotten. Without thinking, she reached up and gently placed her hand on the creature's snout. The scales were surprisingly smooth and warm to the touch. The alien hellbeast horse flinched slightly at the contact but did not pull away. Instead, it lowered its head, allowing Lena to stroke its snout with her small hand. "You're not a monster," Lena said softly, as if she were stating a simple truth. "You're just lost." The creature let out a low, rumbling sound that Lena could only describe as a purr. It was a sound of contentment, of gratitude. The connection between them deepened, and Lena felt a surge of emotion that wasn't her own, a mix of relief, loneliness, and a deep, aching sadness. Lena spent the rest of the morning with the creature, talking to it as if it were a close friend. She told it about her life on Arcadia 7, about her family, and about her love for exploring the forest. The creature listened silently, occasionally responding with a soft snort or a gentle nuzzle. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Lena knew she had to return to the colony. She didn't want to leave the creature, but she also knew that she couldn't stay out here forever. With one last pat on the creature's snout, she turned and began the walk back home. When Lena returned to the colony, she found her parents and a group of colonists waiting anxiously for her. They had discovered her absence and were on the verge of organizing a search party. The relief on their faces quickly turned to a mixture of anger and fear as they realized where she had been. "What were you thinking, Lena?" her mother scolded, pulling her into a tight embrace. "You could have been hurt, or worse." "I'm sorry, Mama," Lena said, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. "But I had to see it. The creature. It's not what you think. It's not a monster." Her parents exchanged worried glances, unsure of what to make of their daughter's words. The other colonists, overhearing the conversation, muttered amongst themselves, their fear of the creature still very much alive. But Lena was undeterred. She knew what she had felt, what she had seen in the creature's eyes. It wasn't evil or dangerous. It was just scared and alone, far from its home. Despite her parents' stern warnings, Lena couldn't stay away from the creature. The next morning, she snuck out again, this time with a basket of food and a blanket. She returned to the clearing and found the creature waiting for her, its red eyes brightening at the sight of her. Each day, Lena visited the alien hellbeast horse, and each day, their bond grew stronger. She brought it food, fruits, vegetables, and even the occasional piece of meat, which the creature accepted gratefully. She spent hours sitting by its side, talking, sketching, and simply enjoying its presence. The creature, in turn, grew calmer, more at ease. The sadness in its eyes began to fade, replaced by a warmth that Lena knew was directed at her. She was no longer just a curious child to the beast. She was a friend, perhaps the only one it had ever known on this strange planet. Back at the colony, the adults watched Lena's growing relationship with the creature with a mixture of awe and trepidation. They couldn't deny the bond that had formed between the girl and the beast, but they still feared what might happen if something went wrong. The colony's elders debated how to handle the situation, but no consensus was reached. Lena's parents, torn between their love for their daughter and their fear for her safety, finally allowed her to continue her visits, hoping that her bond with the creature would keep both her and the colony safe. Lena, for her part, didn't care about the colony's fears. She only cared about the creature, her friend. She had found something in the alien hellbeast horse that no one else had seen, a kindred spirit, lost and far from home, just as she sometimes felt in her small world on Arcadia 7. And so, day after day, Lena returned to the forest, to the clearing where the alien hellbeast horse waited for her. Their friendship grew, as did Lena's understanding of the creature's true nature. She knew there was more to the story, more to the creature's past and the reason it had come to Arcadia 7. But for now, Lena was content just to be with her friend, knowing that in a world full of fear and misunderstanding, they had found something truly special, a bond that transcended the boundaries of species, language, and even worlds. As the days passed, the bond between Lena and the alien hellbeast horse grew deeper and more profound. The creature, once feared and misunderstood by the entire colony, had become Lena's closest companion. She spent every possible moment with it, sneaking out early in the mornings and returning just before dusk. The creature, in turn, seemed to come alive in her presence, its once ominous red eyes now glowing with a softer, more gentle light whenever it saw her approach. But as Lena's friendship with the creature blossomed, she began to notice subtle changes in its behavior. The alien hellbeast horse, once so powerful and intimidating, now appeared to be growing weaker. Its movements were slower, its breath more labored, and its once brilliant mane of crackling energy had dimmed to a faint glow. The creature would often stand still for long periods, its head lowered as if in deep contemplation, or perhaps in pain. Lena's heart ached for her friend. She could sense that something was deeply wrong, but she didn't know how to help. She tried bringing different foods, thinking that maybe the creature was hungry, but it barely touched the offerings. She spoke to it softly, trying to comfort it, but the creature would only nuzzle her hand, its eyes filled with a sorrow that Lena couldn't fully understand. One evening, as the sun began to set, Lena sat beside the creature in their usual spot in the clearing. She leaned against its massive flank, feeling the warmth of its scales beneath her hand. The alien hellbeast horse lowered its head, resting it gently in her lap. Lena stroked its mane, feeling the faint hum of energy beneath her fingers. "What's wrong?" Lena whispered, her voice trembling with concern. "Why are you so sad?" The creature let out a low, mournful sound, and Lena felt a wave of emotion wash over her, an overwhelming sense of loss, longing, and loneliness. The feelings were so intense that Lena's eyes filled with tears, even though she didn't fully understand why. As she continued to stroke the creature's mane, something extraordinary happened. Lena's mind began to fill with images, visions that weren't her own. At first, they were faint and disjointed, but as she focused, they became clearer, more vivid. She saw a world bathed in purple light, with skies of swirling clouds and landscapes that stretched out in endless plains of shimmering crystal. In this vision, the alien hellbeast horse was not alone. There were others like it, majestic, powerful creatures that roamed the plains in great herds, their manes glowing brightly as they galloped freely across the alien landscape. Lena could feel the joy and freedom in these images, a sense of unity and belonging that made her heart swell with emotion. But then the vision shifted. The skies darkened, and a terrible storm raged across the land. Lena watched in horror as the beautiful world was torn apart by violent forces, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and strange energy surges that cracked the ground and split the sky. The herds of hell-beast horses scattered in panic, their cries echoing through the air as they were separated, lost amidst the chaos. The vision ended with a final, heartbreaking image: the alien hell-beast horse, alone and adrift in the void of space, its once vibrant mane dimmed to a pale glow, searching for something, anything, familiar in the vast emptiness. The creature's journey had led it across the stars, through countless worlds, until it finally crash-landed on Arcadia 7, a world as alien to it as it was to the colonists. When the vision faded, Lena found herself back in the clearing, her heart pounding in her chest. The alien hell-beast horse was still resting in her lap, its eyes closed as if exhausted by the effort of sharing its memories. Lena was overwhelmed by what she had seen, by the sheer magnitude of the creature's loss. It wasn't just a solitary beast. It was the last of its kind, a survivor of a dying world, stranded on a planet far from home. Tears streamed down Lena's cheeks as she hugged the creature tightly, burying her face in its mane. "You're not alone," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm here with you." The alien hell-beast horse let out a soft, rumbling purr, a sound that Lena had come to recognize as one of affection and gratitude. It lifted its head slightly, nuzzling her gently in response. But even as it did, Lena could feel the creature's energy fading, its strength waning. The connection between them, once so vibrant and full of life, was now tinged with the sorrow of impending loss. Lena knew she couldn't let this happen. She couldn't just stand by and watch her friend suffer. But what could she do? She was just a little girl, and this was a creature from another world, one that needed something far beyond her understanding. Yet Lena refused to give up. There had to be a way to help her friend, to ease its pain and bring it peace. Driven by a newfound determination, Lena decided to seek help from the colony's elders. She knew that the adults didn't fully trust the creature, but she had to make them understand. She had to show them that the alien hellbeast horse wasn't a monster, but a lost soul in desperate need of help. That night, Lena didn't sneak back into her home as usual. Instead, she went straight to the central hall, where the elders were holding their evening meeting. The room was filled with the usual discussions of colony business, but as soon as Lena entered, all eyes turned to her. Her parents, seated among the other colonists, gasped in surprise at the sight of their daughter standing there, her face streaked with tears and her expression one of grim determination. "Lena, what's wrong?" her mother asked, rising to her feet. But Lena shook her head, signaling for her to wait. "I need to talk to the elders," Lena said, her voice steady despite the emotions roiling within her. "It's about the creature, the alien hell-beast horse." The room fell silent. The elders, who had been discussing the latest crop reports, exchanged wary glances. Elder Thomason, the oldest and most respected of the group, nodded for Lena to continue. "Go on, child," he said kindly. "What do you have to tell us?" Lena took a deep breath, then began to recount everything she had experienced with the creature. Their bond, the visions, and the overwhelming sense of loss and loneliness she had felt. She spoke with a passion that surprised even herself, describing the creature's homeworld, the disaster that had befallen it, and the journey that had brought it to Arcadia 7. The elders listened intently, their expressions shifting from skepticism to a mix of awe and concern. By the time Lena finished, there wasn't a single person in the room who wasn't moved by her story. "This creature," Lena concluded, her voice soft but firm, "it's not evil. It's not a monster. It's just lost and alone, and it needs our help. Please, we have to do something." For a moment, there was silence. The colonists, who had been so fearful of the alien hellbeast horse, now looked to the elders, waiting for their decision. Elder Thomason stroked his beard thoughtfully, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and wisdom. "This is extraordinary," he finally said. "If what you say is true, Lena, then this creature is not only a survivor, but a being with a soul as deep and complex as our own. It would be wrong to let it suffer in silence." "But what can we do?" one of the other elders asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "It's not like we can simply send it back to its home world. We don't even know where that is." Lena's heart sank. She knew they were right. The creature's home was light years away, in a system that was likely unreachable by human technology. But she also knew that they couldn't just give up. There had to be something they could do, some way to help. "We may not be able to send it home," Elder Thomason said slowly, "but perhaps we can find a way to give it peace. We need to learn more about this creature, about its biology, its needs. Dr. Carter, you're our lead scientist. Do you think you could study the creature, learn what it might need to survive, to heal?" Dr. Carter, who had been silent until now, nodded thoughtfully. "I believe so. But I would need full access to the creature, and I would need Lena's help. She's the only one who has a connection with it. If we're going to do this, we'll need to work together." Lena's heart swelled with hope. The colony was finally starting to see the creature as she did, not as a threat, but as a being in need of help. She nodded eagerly, willing to do whatever it took to save her friend, and so it was decided. The next morning, Lena, Dr. Carter, and a small team of scientists would venture into the forest to study the alien hellbeast horse, to learn what they could about its condition and how they might help it. But as Lena prepared to leave the central hall that night, Elder Thomason called her over. He knelt down to her level, his eyes filled with both pride and concern. "You've done something remarkable, Lena," he said softly. "You've shown us that even the most fearsome creatures can have hearts as gentle as our own. But I need you to understand something. This journey you're on, it's not going to be easy. The road ahead may be filled with challenges, and not all of them will be ones you can face alone." Lena nodded, her eyes bright with determination. "I understand, Elder Thomason, but I won't give up. I promised my friend I'd help, and I'm going to keep that promise." The elder smiled, a warm, kind smile that reached his eyes. "I believe you will, Lena. And know this, you're not alone either. We're all here to help you, just as you're helping that creature." With those words in her heart, Lena returned home, her mind racing with thoughts of what tomorrow would bring. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready. She had to be, because her friend's life depended on it. That night, Lena dreamed of the purple-hued world from the creature's vision, of endless plains and skies filled with swirling clouds. She dreamed of the herds of hell-beast horses, running free under the alien sun, and she knew that somehow, someway, she had to help her friend find that peace once more. Little did she know, the journey she was about to embark on would not only change her life, but the fate of the entire colony, and perhaps even the galaxy itself. The dawn of a new day brought with it a mixture of hope and trepidation. Lena woke up before the sun had fully risen, her heart pounding with anticipation. Today was the day she and the team of scientists would begin their mission to help the alien hellbeast horse. She dressed quickly, her mind racing with thoughts of what they might discover and how they might ease the creature's suffering. As she stepped outside, the early morning air was cool and crisp, the sky tinged with the soft hues of dawn. The colony was already stirring, with small groups of colonists gathering to watch the preparations. Despite their initial fear of the creature, they now held a quiet respect for the bond that Lena had formed with it. The girl who had once been seen as a curious child was now regarded with a sense of awe. Her bravery and compassion had touched them all. Lena's parents, who had been both proud and fearful for their daughter, were waiting for her near the central hall. Her mother knelt down and wrapped her in a tight embrace. "Be careful, Lena," her mother whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "We're so proud of you, but please, take care of yourself out there." "I will, Mama," Lena replied, hugging her back. "I promise." Her father, normally a man of few words, placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're doing something extraordinary, Lena. Remember, you're not alone in this. We're all here, supporting you." With a final nod of encouragement from her parents, Lena joined Dr. Carter and the team of scientists who were already assembling their equipment. The group was small but skilled, each member carefully chosen for their expertise in alien biology and engineering. They had spent the night preparing, gathering all the tools and instruments they thought might be necessary to study the creature and assess its condition. Dr. Carter, a tall woman with a sharp mind and a gentle demeanor, greeted Lena with a reassuring smile. "Are you ready, Lena?" she asked, her voice calm but serious. Lena nodded, her resolve unwavering. "I'm ready." The team set out toward the forest, the air thick with a mixture of anxiety and determination. As they walked, Lena couldn't help but glance up at the sky, where the first rays of sunlight were breaking through the trees. She hoped that somewhere, the alien hellbeast horse was waiting for her, still holding on despite its weakened state. When they reached the clearing, Lena felt a wave of relief wash over her. The creature was there, standing in the middle of the open space, its massive form casting a long shadow across the ground. Its eyes, once so vibrant, were dim, but they brightened slightly at the sight of Lena approaching. The connection between them flared to life, and Lena could feel the creature's gratitude and trust. Dr. Carter and her team approached cautiously, their movements slow and deliberate. The creature watched them with a wary eye but did not show any signs of aggression. It trusted Lena, and by extension, it was willing to trust those she had brought with her. Lena walked up to the creature, placing a gentle hand on its snout. "It's okay," she whispered soothingly. "They're here to help." The creature let out a soft rumble, a sound Lena had come to recognize as its way of acknowledging her words. Dr. Carter stepped forward, her expression one of deep concentration as she began her examination. She carefully observed the creature's scales, its mane, and its overall physical condition, taking notes on a handheld device. As Dr. Carter worked, Lena stayed close to the creature, offering it comfort and reassurance. The team used various instruments to measure its vital signs, scanning its body with advanced technology designed to analyze alien life forms. They worked methodically, each member contributing their expertise to the task at hand. After several hours, Dr. Carter stepped back, her brow furrowed with concern. She called Lena over, her voice serious but gentle. "Lena, we've learned a lot today, but the situation is more complicated than we anticipated." "What's wrong?" Lena asked, her heart sinking at the sight of Dr. Carter's worried expression. "The creature is incredibly resilient, but it's also severely weakened," Dr. Carter explained. "Its energy levels are critically low, and its body is struggling to sustain itself. From what we've gathered, it seems that this creature relies on a specific type of energy to survive, an energy that it can no longer find here on Arcadia 7. Lena felt a lump form in her throat. "Is there anything we can do to help it? We can't just let it die." Dr. Carter placed a reassuring hand on Lena's shoulder. "We're not giving up, Lena. There might be a way to help, but it's going to require something extraordinary." The team had discovered that the energy sustaining the creature was a unique form of bioelectrical energy that seemed to be connected to the creature's home world. Without access to this energy, the creature's life force was slowly draining away. The challenge was clear. They needed to find a way to replicate or restore this energy to save the creature. The colony's engineers, who had been monitoring the situation from a distance, were quickly brought into the fold. After hours of intense discussion and brainstorming, they came up with a plan, one that was ambitious and fraught with risks, but it was the only chance they had. The engineers proposed modifying the colony's small interstellar transport ship to harness the planet's natural energy fields, converting them into a form of energy that could potentially stabilize the creature's condition. It was a long shot, but it was their best hope. Lena, determined to help in any way she could, insisted on being part of the process. Over the next few days, she worked alongside the engineers, helping where she could, and learning more about the technology that would hopefully save her friend. The entire colony rallied behind the effort, contributing their skills and resources to the mission. There was a sense of unity and purpose that hadn't been felt in the colony for a long time. Finally, after days of relentless work, the modified ship was ready. The engineers had created a device capable of emitting the energy necessary to sustain the creature. But there was a catch. It would require the ship to be in close proximity to the creature, and it would take time for the energy to fully stabilize its condition. The colony gathered at the edge of the forest to witness the launch. The atmosphere was tense, filled with both hope and fear. Lena stood by the creature's side, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew this was their last chance. As the ship hovered above the clearing, the engineers activated the energy emitter. A soft hum filled the air, and a beam of light, infused with the converted energy, enveloped the alien hellbeast horse. The creature tensed at first, but then a deep, rumbling sigh of relief echoed through the clearing as the energy began to flow into its body. The effect was immediate. The creature's eyes brightened, and its mane crackled with renewed vigor. The transformation wasn't instantaneous, but it was clear that the energy was beginning to stabilize the creature's condition. Lena felt a surge of hope as she watched her friend regain some of its strength. But the process was delicate. The engineers monitored the ship's systems closely, making constant adjustments to ensure the energy output remained stable. The entire colony held its breath, knowing that any mistake could spell disaster. Hours passed, and slowly but surely the creature's condition improved. Its breathing became steadier, and its eyes, once filled with sorrow, now shone with a new light, a light that Lena recognized as hope. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the engineers gave the all-clear. The energy stabilization had been successful. The alien hellbeast horse was no longer on the brink of death, but it would need time to fully recover. Lena couldn't contain her joy. She threw her arms around the creature's neck, tears of relief streaming down her face. The creature nuzzled her affectionately, a low purr rumbling from its chest. The bond between them had grown even stronger through this ordeal, and Lena knew that they had overcome something truly extraordinary together. The colony erupted in cheers, the tension and fear of the past weeks finally giving way to celebration. They had faced the unknown, and together, they had saved a life that had once been feared, but was now cherished. In the days that followed, the creature continued to recover, its strength slowly returning. The colony built a special enclosure near the edge of the forest, a place where the alien hellbeast horse could rest and regain its full power. Lena visited it every day, bringing it food, talking to it, and simply being there for her friend. As the creature's health improved, the colony's scientists began to study its biology more closely, hoping to learn more about its species and its homeworld. They discovered that the creature's energy needs were indeed tied to its native environment, and they began to work on ways to replicate that energy more effectively, ensuring that the creature would never face such a crisis again. But Lena knew that this wasn't just about keeping the creature alive. The visions she had shared with the alien hellbeast horse still haunted her. The images of its home world, the disaster that had befallen it, and the herds of creatures that might still be out there, lost and alone in the vastness of space. One evening, as Lena sat beside the creature, she felt the familiar surge of connection between them. The creature lowered its head, its eyes locking onto hers, and she knew what it was asking, what it needed from her. "You want to go home, don't you?" Lena whispered, her heart heavy with the realization. The creature nuzzled her gently in response, its eyes filled with a mixture of longing and acceptance. Lena knew what she had to do. She had saved her friend, but now she needed to help it find peace, to help it return to the world it had lost, or at least to try. The colony, now fully invested in the creature's well-being, agreed to help. They began working on a new mission, one that would take Lena, the alien hellbeast horse, and a small team of colonists across the stars in search of the creature's homeworld or others of its kind. It was a daunting task, filled with uncertainty and danger, but Lena was ready. She had learned so much on this journey about courage, compassion, and the power of connection. She knew that no matter what they faced, they would do it together. The day of departure came, and the entire colony gathered to see them off. Lena, standing beside the now strong and majestic alien hellbeast horse, felt a surge of pride and determination. This was just the beginning of a new adventure, one that would take them far from Arcadia 7, but closer to the truth and to the possibility of finding a new beginning. As the ship's engines roared to life and they lifted off, Lena looked out at the familiar landscape of Arcadia 7 one last time. She knew she would miss this place, the home she had known for all her life, but she also knew that she was following a path that felt right, one that would lead to the answers she and the creature both sought. With a final glance at the colony, Lena turned her attention forward to the vast expanse of space that lay ahead. The alien hellbeast horse stood beside her, its eyes bright with hope and a newfound strength. Together, they would face whatever challenges awaited them. Together, they would find the creature's home, or create a new one. And so, with Lena at the helm and the alien hellbeast horse by her side, they set off on a journey that would change their lives, and the fate of countless others, forever.